What if the person you think you are is just a fraction of who you truly are? What if years of conditioning and surviving in a challenging world have left you clinging to strategies and beliefs that mask your truest nature? I'm Catherine Duca, psychotherapist and self-esteem coach, and you're listening to Who Do You Think You Are? A show that looks beneath our psychological masks and uncovers our profoundly messy, beautiful, brilliant, tender-hearted essence. Join me as we go in search of the hidden power of our true selves. I'm so glad you're here.
And you know that I am so glad to be here. This is the highlight of my week. Thank you so much for joining me. This is Who Do You Think You Are? A podcast dedicated to you, your voice, your authenticity, dedicated to helping you learn how to have the highest regard for yourself, how to come from a place, how to live from a place of genuine self-respect and self-love, and how to make yourself a priority in your own life. Meet me here each week for curated tips and strategies designed to help you drop your psychological masks, connect with your truest essence, and simply live life more easily. Why? Because we know that when we approach life in this way, we naturally and effortlessly and quite organically have more room, more generosity, and more love for one another. And dear listeners, wide receivers, when have we needed love more than this very moment? So I welcome you. We are live, of course, and I invite you to join the chat if you have access to it. I welcome your comments and your input and your thoughts. As always, I want to say that if you find yourself in a particularly rough spot, if you're dealing with something that really has you down, has you extraordinarily preoccupied, don't go it alone. Don't go it alone. Get some help, get some support. There is plenty of good qualified help out there. Let someone accompany you. If you are looking for a referral and have any difficulty or challenge with that, drop me a line. Email me at Catherine@catherineduca.com. That's Catherine@catherineduca.com. And I'll see what I could do to help you with a referral. Okay? Do not go it alone. It's not necessary. Going it alone is not a badge of honor or a badge of strength. All right. Welcome, some people in the chat. I want to say hello to Anthony. Anthony, good to see you. Welcome. And Claudia, hi. So glad you're here. One of the reasons why I love doing this show so much is because it is truly something that I co-create with you, the listener. I hear from some of you by email during the week, and you let me know your reactions to things, and you have follow-up questions and comments. And what I've been hearing the past couple of weeks is an interest that some of you have in going deeper, So that's what we're going to do tonight. We're going to take a deeper dive. I can say at the outset, just anticipating this time with you, I have to say, I feel a bit subdued tonight. I feel kind of a heaviness around my heart, just anticipating the kinds of things we're going to be talking about tonight. So if you're in the mood, or if you need something lighthearted and fluffy, I don't think this is the conversation for you tonight. So you may want to switch to something else, because going deeper is going deeper into what many of us are experiencing, given the complexities of life these days, given what's going on in our country and in the world. I'm hearing from many people, my own clients, some of as I said, some of you listeners who have a need to express how you feel. A need to express how you feel. So I offer this program tonight as a place for you, if you care to kind of express what you feel, park your emotions, let some air out of the bag, if you will, about the state of our union and the state of the world. You know, if you've gotten my email this morning, it's called Sunday Sauce, an ode to my Italian heritage. You know that the title of it was Better or Bitter, or maybe the other way around, bitter or better. Given what's happening all around us with bad news, strange news, confounding news, unimaginable news, and just news that is extraordinarily difficult to take in and digest. Many people are feeling like they don't know where to turn, you know? And again, I hope the show can be one small place for one brief hour where you can do that. You know, there aren't many choices that we have as we listen to the news, and have I'm searching for a word because strong doesn't quite capture it. As someone said to me a couple of days ago, they've never felt anything like they're feeling these days. They've never felt sensations in their body the way they're experiencing them lately. They never felt the helplessness that they've been feeling or the outrage. And there aren't many responses to that. I think that what some people do is, and you know, we can all understand this, is they drown out, they try to numb out the pain, the anguish, the things that we're seeing that are, you know, unconscionable on our screens. Drown them out with substances, with food, with spending, with some kind of addiction, right? Because it's just too much to feel. Other people are finding themselves retreating and withdrawing into mindlessness or into some, I have to say, some self-destructive behavior. And again, all of this is well meaning, you know, it's our collective effort to get through this quandary, this pain, this period of inhumanity. You know, someone said again the other day that there's not many people alive today who remember World War II. And yeah, that's so interesting to think of. Of course, many remember Vietnam, but the wars that are going on and the ways in which the wars are conducted, and because of news media and 24/7 news cycles, these atrocities, these crimes against humanity are right in our living rooms. They're right on our devices. And it can feel a lot of things, isolating, overwhelming. I mean, I invite you to let me know some words that perhaps begin to capture your experience these days as you listen to the news and, you know, deal with the onslaught. So tonight, I wanted to be a place and a person to hear you, and I want to offer some things later in the show, some techniques, I guess you could call them, some practices that I use to try to keep my mental health intact as best I can, to try to stay present and to try to stay open-hearted. Spoiler alert, I don't always succeed at doing that, and even my best efforts at times don't quite get me through it. Sometimes the pain and the shock of what I see on the news is just too much. And yes, I take news breaks, and I advocate that for my clients. Gosh, if you're watching 24/7, I'm going to suggest you don't do that to your brain and your psyche and your heart. But even if you tune in sporadically, there it is. There it is. And if it isn't one thing, it's another. And it's very difficult to quantify horror. It's very difficult, you know. 9/11 was a horror, but then October 11th, a horror of a different sort. Is that more horrible? I don't know. It's hard to quantify. Ukraine, it's hard to quantify. Gaza, starving children, mothers, hysterical, pleading, trying to comfort their inconsolable children. I mean, we really have to ask ourselves, how did this happen? But actually, that's not the question for tonight. The question for tonight is, what can we do? What can you do? What can I do to feel some sense of empowerment, to do something with the pain and the anguish that we feel? Someone told me the other day, she wakes up at 2, 3, or 4 in the morning in tears. I hear that from so many people. I've experienced that myself. Wake up, that's what 4 a.m. is for, the quiet, the lack of distraction. That's when the scary things in the recesses of our mind come to be. It's in some ways it's unfathomable, but here we are. It is our reality, and we are alive, and I believe each of us is called to do something. Let me just say hello and see where people are in the chat, and I'll try to incorporate, because I want this to be a conversation. Still, Bill, welcome. Right. We don't really grow with lighthearted and fluffy, do we? No, but I am going to talk about, Bill, being lighthearted, and just the way you spelled it, light, L-I-G-H-T, lighthearted, as opposed to L-I-T-E, because this stuff is too heavy for that kind of light. But I am going to talk about, and I'd love to talk with you tonight about how we can be bearers of light. So when I say lighthearted tonight, I mean carrying within us some measure of light that we infuse into the world, in spite of, maybe because of, what is happening. We talk about, we've all heard this expression, right? Be the peace you want to see in the world. It's a beautiful expression. Be the peace you want to see in the world. What do we mean by that? What do we mean by be the peace? I'll be interested in what you think. For me, look, not many of us have a wide platform. Not many of us hold political office. Not many of us have some pull or sway out there in the world. We have our ordinary life. And when I say ordinary, I put myself at the front of the line. Just an ordinary life. Do my thing, nothing extraordinary. I'm not walking across any bridges. I'm not doing anything of the sort. But in the space that I take up on this planet, and walking the path that I walk, and meeting others on their path. That's my world. That's my orbit. And I submit it is yours as well. And so tonight's conversation, I hope, can be about what kind of energy can we infuse into our little tiny, tiny, tiny sliver of the world. Because if we are waiting for other people to turn this ship around, well, I think we see how that's going. We can no longer abdicate and let them handle it. I mean, that's an understatement, even as I say it. So it is in our hands, but we don't have the power of the legislature behind us. You know, we don't speak in the, you know, in the well and at the Capitol, right? So what can we do with our one little life? Hi, Janine. Good to see you. Thanks for being here. These times feel perilous. There's a word. Yeah, there's a word, perilous. I relate to whoever the person was who told you they have never felt this way before. Sure. Well, I think you just have to look just beneath you here at Patricia. Hi, Patricia. Welcome. Hi, Kathy. These are all new feelings. Yes, they are. I always felt I had a great country behind me. I was always home, but now, where is home? Where is home? So in that, Patricia, what I hear, what I relate to, what I share is the past tense. I always felt I had a great country behind me. I always felt I was home, but I feel homeless, if I can extrapolate. Tell me if I'm warm or cold. I feel homeless in light of what I'm seeing today. You know, so many people feel that our democracy is in jeopardy. And I think people on both sides, you know, certainly the left feels that way, but the right feels that way as well. They feel that the left is doing things and being so woke and, you know, really chipping away at their notion of democracy. Well, I'm not here to talk about the merits of that. Not tonight. I'm just here to talk about how that makes you feel and how that makes me feel. Because, Patricia, what I hear there in between your words is the grief of what you knew to be home, what you knew to be your country is changing into what I don't know. I don't know. You know, words are thrown around: dictatorship, authoritarianism, whatever it is. It's certainly not looking like what it used to look like. And so perilous and grieving, I think, are two words that I certainly relate to. Dawn, I think it all begins inside of ourselves. If we're not regulated physiologically or psychologically, how can we think and feel and act with intention? We will have more stability to offer others. Yes, well, that's what I want to talk about right there, Dawn, because in the grieving, in the anger, in the sadness, in the feeling exasperated, lost, unsure, mad as hell, in that, where do we go? What do we do? What do we do with our insides? If you wake up at 4 a.m. and you feel like crying, the first thing I will say to you and to myself is there's a lot to cry about right now. There's a lot to cry about. It makes me emotional to think that. And so, who saw it coming? But when your democracy is on the line, first you cry. So I think there's a place for that. But then I think, as Dawn said, we have to tend to our inner state. The externals, as intense and unbelievable and unfathomable as they may be, those externals, when you think about it, they don't define who we are internally. Of course, they affect us. I mean, that's why so many of us are so upset, distraught. But those externals don't define who we are. I think what's happening in our country and in the world is asking us and asking of us, who the hell are we? Who are we when the chips are down like they are? And listen, of course there is beauty in the world. I saw a post today. I jotted it down if I can find it. The world is heartbreaking every day and beautiful every day. I think Dawn posted this. The world is heartbreaking every day and beautiful every day. So that is absolutely true. Listen, babies are born, you know, things are discovered, kindness abounds. So yes, of course, we are not only darkness, but tonight I'm going to talk about what we do with the darkness and how we dare to become light-hearted in the face of that darkness. So, a potato, if you put it in boiling water, gets mushy, doesn't it? But an egg, if you put it in the same boiling water, becomes hard. So we react to these external occurrences according to where we are in our lives and according to who we are. So this is why I say the purpose of coming together on this night is to take a stand and be a stand for showing up for one another. Showing up for one another. You know, in the helplessness, so many people have said, gosh, I can't do anything about the children starving in Gaza. And I'll just use that as a reference. There's so many things going on in the world, but I'll pick that particular atrocity. I can't do anything. All I can do is watch or not watch. It's too much to take. I can't do anything. And that's true. That's true. We can't go there and scoop up those children. We can't comfort those parents. We can't tend to their wounds. We can't hold them and rock them and bring them close and tell them they're going to be okay. We can't do that. Yes, we can write a check, and that's not nothing. And yes, we can support the organizations that go in and do that. And I think we are called to do that. I think we must. But I think, as Dawn is alluding to here, I think the first order of business is to take care of ourselves and take care of one another with the intention that we are readying ourselves, preparing ourselves to infuse some light, some love, radical love into the world. Because look, if it's dog eat dog, and I'm worn down and you're worn down and I'm just trying to get my peace and just keep my life together and I don't have the bandwidth to look at your life, then an unimaginable thing becomes even worse, because then the rest of us are in a state of paralysis, in a state of inertia. And that's not going to help anyone. I heard a minister say one time, with referring to financial abundance, and I think it applies here. You know, people say, I just want to make enough to cover my bills. I don't ask for much. I just want to cover my bills. I just want to keep my own life comfortable. And, that's, yeah, of course, that's okay. But he said, how are you going to be a light for other people when you can barely keep your own lights on? If you barely have enough to pay your light bill, how are you going to be a light in someone else's life? And I never forgot that. So we are called, in spite of and because of precisely what is happening, to dig deep and to find within ourselves radical love. Radical love. And radical love, I believe, is, it's not, if you think it is, hallmarky and smiley faces and syrupy. I mean, nobody listening here thinks that. But if you have the audacity to rise above the vortex that's pulling you down, that's pulling me down, if we have the audacity, I think, to try to rise above it enough to infuse love to one another, to hold one another up, then we help to regulate ourselves. Because as Dawn is saying with dysregulation, when we are in that level of upset, things happen in our brain. Literally, our prefrontal cortex, the part of our brain right here in the front that is responsible for executive reasoning and organizing ourselves, that part goes offline. And then, we're in fight or flight or freeze or appease. And we can't really take action. Now, oftentimes the action we take on our devices under the cover of anonymity, right? How many people do this? Is they spew all kinds of things. I mean, they impart good things as well. I'm talking people at large on things like social media. But, in this world of anonymity, anybody could say anything, sling mud, spew hatred. Nobody knows who they are. So there's that layered on top of everything else. And I submit to you that while you may feel like a speck, like an insignificant speck in this big world, helpless, I submit to you that you are not a speck, an insignificant speck. Yeah, of course, if you go into outer space, we are just a little, we're nothing and we're everything at the same time. We're part of an unlimited matrix of people, circumstances, situations, and it's easy to feel like we are just, inconsequential. But we are not inconsequential. And I submit to you, we need to be a stand for what we believe in. I'm going to pause there and I'm going to go back to the chat. And then Martin Luther King is coming to my mind. So I'm going to jot that down. I want to say something about him, but I want to see what you have to say. Claudia says, I try to find that peace. Claudia, where'd you go? Okay, wait. 1 second, Claudia. I have to get you back here on the chat. Claudia, I try to find that peace during these menacing times with prayer. There are times that it helps. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Prayer is one of, prayer, we may pray differently, so many of us, we may pray differently. But the universal principles that underlie all religions is that there is something higher, a source, a being, a nature higher than ourselves. And if we can feel like we are a part of that, I refer to that as the divine. Whenever I feel plugged into the divine, I feel like I have oxygen. And I affirm that as an expression of the divine, because that's what I believe I am, that's what I believe each of us is. a direct expression of the divine, the Christ consciousness, whatever you call God consciousness, universal consciousness is within each of us. But we have to get out there. We have to be a stand for what we envision. So, Claudia, prayer. Yes, of course. Anthony, I was trying to be an oasis of peace in my dining area, but the negative tension piled so high, it toppled over on me. Then I sort of gave up. Okay, sure. An oasis of peace in the dining room. Well, on the right track, Anthony, I would say. But the negative tension piled up so high, it toppled. Well, this is why we need community. This is why we need conversations like this. This is why, you know, like-minded people, when we come together, we amplify what is in each of us. And when we do that, something else, we're bigger than the sum of our parts. We become something else. So, Anthony, you may have given up in that moment, but you're here in this conversation and you're contributing, and your intention was to be an oasis of peace. So listen, here's the thing, and I think it ties in beautifully to what I'm saying here. Don't stop being the oasis. Don't allow, this is, I think, our calling, not to allow the negativity to extinguish the part of us that wants to be an oasis, the part of us that is an oasis. Let them, I suppose. They're going to be. But if we can remain steadfast, if we can hold to the vision that we have within, if we can be that young tree in the wintertime that learns how to bend, doesn't break, and we remain rooted in what we hold dear, this, I think, is one of the ways that we can maintain hope during moments of hopelessness. Now, I completely understand. I do it myself. Things get to be too much. I back up a little bit. I take a time out. I soothe myself, hopefully, in some kind of positive way. After the break, I'll share some things that I do. But then don't let them change you. Anthony, don't let people change you. I know when I try to be curious about how other people think, and I try to be empathic, it's not to change anyone. But I'll tell you, it's to not be changed by anyone. I don't want what's happening to harden my heart, to make me calloused and indifferent and just live in overwhelm. There's a part of me that goes all the way up into my higher self, and I take almost an aerial view of myself, and I say, Kathy, don't do that. Don't succumb. Keep your intentionality. Regulate yourself. Do the things you know how to do to keep your body calm, so that when I walk out the door, I'm not part of the problem. I abhor, when people are condescending and demeaning. I don't want to become that. But if I allow myself to sink into that vortex, I will become that. I know. So I have to stay mindful. I don't want to be that which I object to. So, Anthony, keep being your oasis. Keep plugging into the show. Keep communicating with the other listeners here. An oasis is a good thing. Still, Bill, I bid the time of day to people I pass on the street. Yes, I hold doors open for others. I greet cashiers with, how are you? Yes, and I mentioned those very things in my newsletter this morning. These are the little things that we can do. Now, you might say, oh, come on. But no, it's true. Because, Bill, just if you can, how do you feel when you do that? How do you feel? Because when I do that, I feel like I am the beneficiary of my own goodwill. And that makes me feel a little more empowered. Like I'm not at the mercy of, I'm not the, being, wagged by the tail, however that expression goes. I'm above water. So yes, these are small gestures, but they let someone else know in a tiny, tiny way, the cashier, when you say, have a nice day or hello, right? If you look them in the eye and you say it like you mean it, takes half a second. You give them the opportunity to let them know you see them. It's a split second. But if you see them and if they can allow themselves to feel seen, then they walk away from that interaction with perhaps a drop more benevolence in their heart. Yes, these little tiny gestures. So with that, let's take a short break. It's a lot to digest. Let's get a beverage or something, and let's come back in a few minutes. You're listening to Catherine Duca, psychotherapist and self-esteem coach, and tonight, someone who is talking with a certain amount of heaviness, but actually with a great deal of gratitude for you who are listening and contributing. Thank you so much. Stay with me. We'll be right back.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for being part of the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring.
Well, hello there. This is Dr. Sydney Steen. I am the senior minister and spiritual leader of the North Hollywood Church of Religious Science. We are a oneness center for spiritual living. And I just want to invite you to something that I think is really, really special. In October, from the 6th to the 10th, at Unity Village in Lee Summit, Missouri, the Affiliated New Thought Network will be hosting the most wonderful retreat. This will serve your soul. It will lift your heart. And oh my goodness, I want to call it an advance. So come hear wonderful speakers like Martha Creek, Sonny Cantrell, and the music will be off the hook with Ricky Byers. There will be so much there to support your soul. I hope that you will join us. You can go to antn.org. That's antn.org. You can get all the information. You can sign up. You can use a credit card, and it is safe and secure, and I hope to see you there. Have a blessed day.
What if the person you think you are is just a fraction of who you truly are? What if years of conditioning and surviving in a challenging world have left you clinging to strategies and beliefs that mask your truest nature? I'm Catherine Duca, psychotherapist and self-esteem coach, and you're listening to Who Do You Think You Are? A show that looks beneath our psychological masks and uncovers our profoundly messy, beautiful, brilliant, tender-hearted essence. Join me as we go in search of the hidden power of our true selves. I'm so glad you're here.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, we are talking about how we can be the peace we want to see in the world. PEACE and PIECE. You know, I said we're a part of this unlimited matrix of people, circumstances, situations, and we can feel lost in the shuffle and insignificant. And like, you know, what can we possibly do? But I encourage us all to remember that rather than feel insignificant, we can embrace the fact that we are each a piece, a thread of a much larger fabric. And each of us threads can call ourselves and ask ourselves to do something. During the break, I read some of the comments here, and I want to go back to Dawn. Dawn says, I think a significant percentage of our citizens were apathetic. How many non-voters? Yeah. Or took our still infant democracy for granted. So we were not as awake and participatory as needed. We're more so now. And Janine says, yes, Dawn, that's a great word, participation. We can't do everything, but we really must do something. I know I need to get more involved. Yes, and that's why, as I was writing the newsletter, I don't know, last night, whenever it was, Martin Luther King came to mind, because I thought of his iconic speech, I have a dream. You know, he didn't say, I have a dream to cancel other people or critique other people or rail against anything. No, he said, I have a dream. I see something in our future. So he saw something. He envisioned another way, and his efforts were to that end. And when you think about the civil rights movement, you think about people actually did something. They weren't hiding behind their devices. They actually did something. John Lewis crossed that bridge. He crossed that bridge. He was beaten to a pulp because of it. Those people, you know, with the dogs and the fire hoses, they must have thought to themselves, I'm going to get, you know, washed down the street. I'm going to get shot at. But they were visible and they did something. And as Dawn is saying, and Janine is saying, and others of you are saying, it is time to do something. So we must self-regulate, okay? We can't be like, a live wire sputtering on the sidewalk, you know, making a lot of noise, but nothing's happening. We need to channel. We need to channel who we are. Because it is, before we can do, we have to be, right? If we're a sputtering live wire, if that's who we are, that's going to affect what we do. And I submit that what we do is not going to be that effective. But if we can ground ourselves, regulate ourselves, and how do we do that? Look, it's the same old thing. You know, as human beings, there are just certain ways in which we do that. We slow down. We remember in our higher selves that we have to slow down rather than be swept up in this tsunami. We slow down. We light a candle. We watch our breathing. We pay attention. We pay attention to the sensations in our bodies, and we soothe ourselves by breathing a certain way. You can read all about square breathing, you know, deep breathing. Hundreds of articles online. We can do tapping. Tapping is a mind-body technique. Look it up if you're unfamiliar. It's a wonderful tool. It's called tapping or EFT, emotional freedom technique. It's wonderful at getting your body calm so that your prefrontal cortex can come back online, and your brain becomes more elastic, and you can become more creative, and you're not a frozen, paralyzed, good intentioned but too inert person. You're much better able to take action that you see appropriate. There are a couple of organizations. I'm going to throw out one called Red, Wine, and Blue. Red, Wine, and Blue. Go online. They have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of followers. This is an online community nationwide. They gather online, but they also have local groups where people meet and they do something. Now, the something might be, I don't know, writing postcards to congresspeople, to senators, to representatives. I did that for the election. At first, I thought it was like a Mickey Mouse thing to do, but a group of friends and I got together, and I tell you, we poured our heart into it. And every postcard we wrote, we felt like we were speaking to someone, reminding someone, imploring someone to take a stand and be a stand for something. So Red, Wine, and Blue is a terrific organization. Someone told me the other day that with what's happening in California, the redistricting, you can actually volunteer to be a texter no matter where you live. I thought that was interesting, right? You don't have to live in a particular state in order to reach out to politicians and remind them that the election is fast approaching. So these are things that you can do. Join your local political party, whichever side. There are meetings all the time. Talk to one another, have conversations, share with one another, cry with one another. Priscilla, welcome. I am fed up with humanity right now. Yeah. Humanity isn't acting very humane. But let's remember, that isn't you, Priscilla, and that isn't me, nor is it anyone here on the chat. And I know it isn't anyone within the sound of my voice who's listening tonight or going to listen in the future. So not everyone is acting inhumanely right now. And again, the baton is in our hands to infuse our little world with a belief and a vision. I see something better than this. I see something. And whether this lasts for 4 years or 8 years, however long it lasts, when we get to the other side of this, and I envision a when, I, for one, don't want to say, oh my gosh, I squandered all that time. I was curled up in a ball. It's okay to curl up once in a while. I think it's necessary, in fact, but not to get stuck there. Right? So indulge our overwhelm. Indulge the I've had it, I'm fed up. It's okay. It's okay once in a while. But go up into that higher self and say, but I am not going to let pain and inhumanity and bullshit have the last word. No, I'm not. Not as long as I'm breathing. Not as long as I'm breathing. And I know many of you feel this way as well. We're running short on time. A couple more comments. Claudia says, yes, first you cry and then you fight back. Yes. You fight back with perhaps a protest march or leaving relentless messages to elected officials. Absolutely. We can also be kind to one another with small gestures. Well, Claudia, I love that because the caption there is, this doesn't have to be either or, right? We can be fed up with humanity right now, but still let people know we see them, we hear them and we want to. So we don't have to make the black or white, all or nothing choice. All right. Claudia, again, you once asked a priest, why didn't God do something during the Holocaust? The priest replied, God did do something. He sent us. I believe that. I believe that. It's up to us to try to fight back in any small way we can. That, Claudia, and getting back to what Dawn said, we took our freedom, our democracy for granted in our infancy. And we mustn't do that because God sent us and we are an aspect of the divine. I heard someone say one time, we don't have anything that Jesus didn't have. He just didn't have any resistance, right? We have the same unlimited potentiality. We have the same heart. But what we also have is our fear, our worry about judgment. And if we pray for anything, let's affirm that we don't have to stay paralyzed. We have a beating heart. We're all brilliant minds, and no more brilliant, no less brilliant than the people who are committing these atrocities. And so let's compel ourselves to show up in radical love. Let's love ourselves. Let's tend to our wounds and the wounds of one another. And let's love each other. Let's love each other enough to be honest, to have the honest conversations we've been talking about, because maybe now there's a bit more context that as we speak to people, we do so with kindness, we do so with respect, we do so with emotional intelligence, inviting that to come forth from them and within them. And let's make some good trouble together. All right, let's make some good trouble. Well, I don't know how you feel. I hope you feel gratified. I do. I feel renewed from talking with you and listening to you and getting some of this out. I feel a little clearer, a little calmer. I feel more connected to each of you, less alone in my pod. And I feel a sense of loving connection to all of you who are listening tonight. I thank you so very much for tuning in. It's always a privilege and an honor to be coming through your earbuds. I wish you all well this week, and I look forward to being back with you next week. I'm not sure what we're going to talk about. Send me an email if there's something in particular you'd like me to cover or talk about. I'll be happy to consider that. Good night, friends. Be well. You've been listening to Who Do You Think You Are on New Thought Media Network. Love to you all. Good night.